I was passing through a crowded area of Shivaji Park and suddenly drops of tar fell on me. And I burnt my hair, my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and my arms. And I really wondered after that, as individuals, how could we protect ourselves from such events? Since then, I started thinking of protection as a subject. Initially, I thought of raincoats. I had thought of some kind of coverings, a house which you could carry maybe. And one thing I was clear was that I'll be wearing it. I thought of the armors when I thought of this violence on the body, especially of women. I'm also interested in costumes. So I thought, wow, now this is great. I can use armors as a context, but give the format of elaborate costumes of the earlier days and today. Another interest that I've always had is masks. Now that again came back at this point. Papua New Guinea, Australia, Indian masks, African masks. So I started studying those things. And the way the hair is done, the way the eyes are done. All this I started studying, and everything just gelled. It's not necessary that my masks are only from this country, this culture, this religion. It is all mixed. So it doesn't have any culture. It doesn't have any national or a boundary. So that is really interesting for me because it becomes just one work, right? When initially I decided that yes, I want to do cane costumes, which are like armors, or rather armors, which are like cane costumes, I started looking at different images. Also thought of the old films at that point, what I'd seen as a kid, Gone with the Wind, or Anne of the Thousand Days, those elaborate dresses, the way they walk, the way they dress, and it was fascinating. Somewhere I connected to Kathakali and the Manipuri dresses also, which are very elaborate. The bouffants of the 60s, 70s films, this Asha Parekh and Helen, the memories of that I could put into my works. Those hairdos and the curls, that's one thing. My work is not about just masculine armors like armors. They are very feminine, they look very delicate, and yet they're very strong. So, that there is a difference. And I used metal, wires, rubber, leather. Somewhere this material didn't work for me. And I've been fond of cane and I'd never noticed it in my context. And then suddenly I noticed it. And I called the person who did the curtains for me and I asked him what is possible. I just said, do one headgear, just a frame for me. Let me see what becomes possible. And when he did it, I knew this is exactly what I want because it's such a flexible material. Actually, who worked with me is Dinesh. When he burnt the cane, it had this yellowish cane started having these brownish blackish marks of the burns, which I really liked. Little by little, I learned about this material. Initially, it was just a visual liking, but then I really fell in love with this material because of the possibilities. So I have used cane because cane can be bent, bamboo cannot be bent. Oh, here I must explain to you, bamboo is a grass, okay, and cane is a creeper. And I went by how the cane spoke to me. So Dinesh and I tried making thin slices of the cane and putting them like ligaments. And then, it could move. But ligament broke after some time in the heat. So I said, this is not going to work. And we tried all kinds of things, rubber bands and chains and leather, but I knew that it had to be something to do with cane itself. And I'm sure I'll get my answer. So I started looking at different cane people, but nobody could help me. Till I was told that in Assam or some such places like Chennai, maybe there are cane people, there are weavers who could help. So a friend of mine who introduced me to one artist in Assam, in Jorhat, which is a large town. And with his help, I went to a very remote place and he had identified one person who works in cane. So we sort of looked out for 2, 3 days and found this person who's an old man who does fabulous jewelry. Now, how can a person who does jewelry do my work? I had no idea, but his son said he'll make these little belts and maybe that'll work. Now, I had no idea. I just took the risk. And then he came here to work with me for about 5 months, where not only did he do these more strips, but he has actually woven on the cane dresses that were already done by Dinesh. His name is Babu, and he and his wife Dhun came and worked with me. It was amazing. It was an awesome experience. The mechanics of my costumes was my idea, whether they would fold sideways, whether they would fold up and down, how my hands and my head would move, because how to put the hooks, Dinesh planned. Basically, there were different kinds of hooks that I made. They look like teeth, they look like bones, and it comes in the way of my wearing the clothes, and it's really difficult to wear my clothes. No, that's the idea. Sometimes my arms come in the way, sometimes my fingers come in the way, so it's quite tough wearing my costumes. Now I have these accessories like bangles and rings and painzans, but they are to protect your calf muscles, the legs, the hands, because these are areas which are exposed and you need to protect them also, right? I want to mention something about my costumes right now. When they are joined together, they have a different aura. They look grand. But when they are dismantled, they have another beauty. When they are folded and kept on the floor, they look like crabs, they look like flowers, they look like, like folded boxes, houses. You will never be able to make out what exactly it is unless they are opened and joined and worn or hung. Because something which is really folded can take another form altogether. Huge, elaborate, magnificent form. But when you're wearing it, it's tough. You start getting claustrophobic, you start getting trapped, you can't move. It's quite difficult. So it's like something that is for protection doesn't allow you the real protection you want. You get trapped in that same thing. So I call it of bodies, armor, and cages.